Hey, what's
You're good.
going on, everyone? This is King Wabi. Welcome back to the channel. I'm here joined by Edward, and
Yes,
today we're going to
sir.
go over are fundamentals going to play a pivotal role in the next bull run, right?
Let's do
Myself
it.
and Ed, we got into the industry in 2017, and back then it was really all about decentralization, right? But at the same time, everything wanted to be on the blockchain. We wanted Uber on the blockchain. We wanted delivery services on the blockchain, and fast forward a couple years later, we have all these meme tokens pop up, right? We have Doge, we have Shib, and just prior to the 69K top, we had all of these crazy leveraged DeFi farms giving you tens of thousands of percent on yield, and really, it kind of deviated from what you would consider fundamentals.
Right.
And you mentioned, this doggy coin or this cat coin went up 2,000, 3,000% in a week. In TradFi, you would label that a Ponzi scheme. And Edward, I know you come from traditional finance, so
Yeah.
how did you look at those first initial gains that you got in crypto coming from TradFi, man? So I guess we can
Yeah.
start.
So I guess it's funny you mentioned that because even I've kind of forgot that I was dabbling into some stocks prior to crypto. But my first experience was just in index funds like the S&P 500. I remember I actually longed as like $300,000 worth of stock just into the S&P 500. It was a leverage. By that weekend, I had made like $6,000. I thought that was amazing. That was nothing to what I was about to get into, and that was with crypto. When I saw those returns that were like 10x returns during a single run up, it was unheard of. I remember going to a lot of my buddies and telling them like, hey, look at this amazing new thing called crypto. Obviously they've all heard of Bitcoin, but they've never heard of the altcoin market. They were of course all skeptical. So it was one of those things where I thought like, okay, this is something different and I'm obviously in it early enough. I got to take advantage of it. I guess to say, how did it compare to TradFi? It was just night and day in every fashion, from the way it was regulated to the way you executed orders and bought into it. And I mean, there's a little shady element to it that eventually you kind of have to overcome. But once you get past that, it was a pretty cool experience. I felt like you were part of something that was futuristic, something new.
So, man, like when we think of TradFi, right, we look at things like earnings, we look at stuff
Yeah,
like calls and all that stuff, balance sheets, and really like we don't actually have that in crypto land, right? The best thing that we have right now is like, how much Uniswap is earning on fees, right? How much TVL is locked in protocols, right? There is no like pinpoint of,
right.
this is how I do my fundamentals based on my experience on TradFi, right? So I guess like the real question here is like, what are fundamentals in crypto, right? What exactly does fundamentals even mean? I mean, we can talk night and day about Bitcoin. We can talk night and day about Ethereum, right? With Ethereum, we use Ethereum to bridge assets from blockchain to blockchain. We use Ethereum to buy our speculative altcoins. We use Ethereum to lock it up and take out loans on Aave, Maker, things like
Right.
that. But outside of that, we really don't have anything much, right? If we look at what's occurred since the top, right, in November, December of 2021, the
Yeah.
only thing that we really have is I guess Arbitrum and Optimism going mainnet on ETH, right? So, the next bull run, we won't really have as too much individuals paying exuberant fees on ETH, right? With ETH L2s, it'll be able to scale out ETH, but we'll see when the time comes. But really, since then, as far as tangible product, the only thing we really have is the Solana Saga phone, right?
Hmm.
Where they finally have a product that's tangible, just like this iPhone here, right? Something that's physical. And, when you use this on a phone, this isn't a show, by the way. When you use this on a phone, you're able to interact with things that are built on top of the Solana ecosystem. Now, I'm not saying, right, that the Solana saga is going to, be the next Apple, but I do think they kicked off sort of a trend. So, what labels as fundamentals in crypto land, in your opinion, brother?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've tried in crypto many, many times over to say concretely, this is what we look to for a concise fundamental, right? Initially, at one point, that was considered to be like white papers, right? Maybe we look at the amount of token supply, the market cap, stuff like that. But I mean, really, when you look deep into it, it doesn't really matter, because even though a coin might have a quote unquote limited supply, it's able to be cut up into millions of pieces on its own. So I think, for me at least, after a while, I pretty much stopped looking at the amount of tokens that they have locked up or in supply, because
The
any
tokenomics, man.
yeah, it's just like while on the surface it might seem like it's important, at the end of the day, unless you're some big entity like Bitcoin, realistically, the scarcity of that token isn't going to mean much in the future, because not a lot of people are utilizing those tokens in the real world, really. And so, like you brought up with Solana, I think that's, you said, it's the real first use case. I think they're trying to bridge that gap between the average Joe and the people in crypto, which is why I think we just haven't seen that adoption that I would have expected to see by now, 7 years later since I've been in this market. But we just haven't seen that, because the use case isn't there, right? So we can throw as many fundamentals as we want. We can take a look at our white papers. We can look at roadmaps. We can look at the tokenomics. It doesn't mean anything if the average Joe doesn't use it. That's why, if anything, I'm kind of a huge fan of like RLB, right? Rollbit, for example. Yeah. It's straightforward. It is what it is. It knows what it wants to be. It's a casino token. People like to gamble on it, and people just understand it. It bridges that gap. Simple as that. So that's what I think the problem with a lot of these other tokens is, that they try to do that, but they're not doing it very well, in my opinion.
They're trying to solve problems that don't even exist. Right?
Exactly.
So Ed, I know you got in at the very start at the 2017 bull run. I think from what you have shared, your first buy was Ethereum at $5, $10, $15. And
yeah.
I know eventually you rotated that into things like a Neo or a Cardano. And I know, first and foremost, you're a technical analyst. And one thing that you've told me over the last few years has been that you let price dictate the fundamentals, right? Or you let the price dictate the narrative, man. So if you want to go ahead and share like your Neo chart, man, and kind of break down what was going on that time frame, and really like what was Neo shilled at around that time. Like, I don't really remember much outside of like, some tokens that we're trying to build on top of Neo would get listed on KuCoin, right? Like Red Pulse, Trinity Credits, right? A lot of really old names, man. And a lot of these projects haven't really seen the light of day. And I remember, dude, that, Neo was really one of those tokens that I remember even in 2019, I had thought, man, the next bull run, this thing is going to run hard.
Right.
So, how was it like back then, man?
Yeah, so I can pull up some charts, man, and kind of talk as I go here. So when I got into crypto way back when, in like early 2017, 2016 era, it was just like, around this consolidating range. And at the time, it being such a brand new token, and if truth be told, I actually was looking at the wrong chart back then, because I did not see this prior run up right here. Had I seen this early on, I probably would have gotten scared of it and jumped out. And a lot of my tokens that I jumped into way back when was, I would argue, due to ignorance in the market. Again, it was just a wild west. A lot of the tools and the analytics that we have today just weren't present back then, especially data. Data was one of those things that was very scarce. So the only reason I got into Ethereum early on was because I had a friend back in college who was a very technical person, way more than I could ever be. And he was just going on about these smart contracts and the technology behind that. I, of course, didn't understand it. The only thing I had prior knowledge of with crypto was Bitcoin, like we all did. But even then, I didn't quite understand that all that much. All I know is that he told me that this is going to be the next big thing. Get into it while you can. And so, of course, with the money that I had from saving from freelancing and stuff, doing jobs like that, I jumped into it. And what would come within the next coming months was just nothing but just a crazy run up, right? I was able to hold on to it for quite a while, up until around that summer, when, of course, Neo came along.
Yeah, man, one of the first ICOs, brother. Golly.
Wait, can you hear my mic all right?
Yeah, you're okay. You're okay.
All right, cool. Yeah, man. So basically, during this time period, it's when I had rotated over to Neo, right? In between that, even prior to this run up and stuff and this consolidation, right? Because I was high off the dopamine, right? So 1 month in crypto felt like an eternity. I remember that very clearly. I would jump at some tokens and expecting it that week to 5x's. It had happened. I forgot what was the other one. It was called like it was like that summer too. It was like this summer. This summer was just crazy. I remember it very clearly.
Oh,
Um,
Omise Go. Was it Omise?
that's it.
Omise
That's the
Go. I
one,
heard. Oh,
man.
dude.
OMG, man. OMG. Oh, that was it, dude. It went from like I got in at 5, got in at 20. It was insane. It was like
Yeah,
525 or
man.
something, And then right before rotating back into Neo, it was just like the compounding era. And I remember saying during this time period, out of ignorance, was that it doesn't matter if you miss out on the move or lose out, or if you lose money. You can always just make it back, right? Because of course, like for a solid year, right? This is the market I had. This is all I had, right? This is all I knew. To me, the dips I only knew was this right here. So I was not prepared to see what was going to come next. And
So was the narrative back then, man.
yeah. So it was a bridge between the libertarian mindset of, look, Bitcoin's going to come in here. This is the next. It's happening, right? They called it like the
smart economy.
or like the flippening, where there was like this idea that Bitcoin was going to flip the dollar and people were going to start using it as a cryptocurrency, a currency to transact. While at the same time, you had like new things like smart contracts coming about with ICOs. It was like we weren't really totally sure what we were investing into. We would just wanted to believe that what we were investing into was tangible. And that's where I think like the ideas of like ICOs and white papers and seed rounds and stuff like that, that's where they came about, because we wanted to replicate what we already knew. And that was, of course, traditional markets like TradFi. Like we tried to emulate as close as possible to that. But because it was a decentralized market, we didn't have quite the regulations like that the stocks and TradFi do, right? So that's kind of like the overall mindset. And so we would try to get as close as possible to that with tokens like Neo, right? Who would say something like, well, this is going to be an Ethereum killer, but you can build, of course, projects on top of it, right? It was a platform. And that's where we started to see like Cardano come about. And who's that big one that everybody invested into? Yeah, long story
ICX.
That's right. All of those, right? And those came on later, like during December and stuff. I remember that. And then and then once it started dying, that's when like the market completely shifted, right? And that's where I would argue, by the time the downturn happened, that we started to see a complete shift in mindset of what is cryptocurrencies and what are we investing into? Is it legitimate? And that's where I would argue that things like meme tokens like Pepe and Dogecoin started really taking off, right? Because at the end of the day, people said, well, if what we're investing into isn't even legit, I think they started just second guessing everything and said, well, let's invest into meme tokens, right? It's just about the hype. What is it that everybody wants to jump into? And that's where I think that the money started slowly but surely flipping over into meme tokens, right? And so I'll kick it off to you. I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Prior to the bull run, dude, like the real bull run, right? Like November 2020 onwards, right? We had things like Chainlink, and if you can pull up at the Chainlink chart, and if you can make a side-by-side comparison, right? Chainlink from early 2019, when it really started kicking off, because Chainlink kind of front ran the entire bull run, I think, and kind of just lost some steam because of all the hype that was really around Link, right? And Link sort of started, that initial craze for DeFi, right? In 2019, it was Chainlink, and then led by Synthetics, right? Like, wow, you're going to be able to trade synthetic assets, the blockchain, right? And then you also had things like Ren Protocol, which facilitated bridges between like protocols from ETH, right? So you can bridge from ETH to Polkadot and all those other things. And really, like after that summer, right, in 2020, like it just kept on getting destroyed versus some of these other assets, right? Like if you compare Doge and compare it to Link, right? Dogecoin outperformed Chainlink, by a multitude of like 400, 500% in just 3 months when Doge really started running. So what took Chainlink 18 months, Dogecoin did that in about 4 months at a 400, 500% multiple, right? Dogecoin really got its legs running from December of 2020 all the way to
Yeah,
May of 2021, right?
it was insane.
So it was incredible. And you would think at that time, like, all right, Bitcoin broke its all-time high. It's time, for Chainlink to go to 3 digits. Chainlink
Yeah,
is the oracle for all of DeFi. Without the there is no. But it kind of like showed me that people only care about community and hype,
yeah,
and that's it. And you can
right,
have the greatest team, the greatest white paper, the greatest tools for your protocol. But if there's no community, if there's no hype, not facilitating around the current demand of the market, you will be priced out, right?
right,
And
right.
has just been one of those tokens that has just been in a downtrend against Bitcoin and Ethereum, for 3 years now. And I can't get it out of my head that despite Chainlink's amazing fundamentals, I kind of feel that Chainlink is what Litecoin was in 2017. Dude, if you look at a chart, right?
Yeah, yeah,
If
yeah.
you look at a chart between the LTC and ETH pair, Litecoin is down severely against Ethereum. And I
Right.
just think that's going to be the case for Chainlink for a while, man. So not
Yeah,
not the US dollar pair, but the
yeah.
LTC ETH pair. That is the story, man.
Let's take a look at the. I'll pull it up
Yeah,
on
look
Gemini.
at that,
Yeah, I
man.
mean
Look at that.
2019. Yeah, it's just burning money.
That is brutal, dude.
You
That
know,
is disgusting, man.
I'll be honest. This hasn't recovered since the what's his name, the owner, the creator, just sold his back.
Yeah,
And so that again, like you said, when there's no community behind that, there's nobody to believe in the token anymore. It just dies. That's not to say that it can't have small pumps in between, but it is crucial for the people to believe that whatever it is they're jumping into is worthwhile their investments. And I think with Litecoin, that was the case. They just he completely lost it. I remember this had one of the largest communities, right? It was up there with Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then afterwards it was just nothing, right? It's going to oblivion. It's only going down more and more.
and what's crazy, Ed, is that in 2019, Chainlink was actually the top performer among the top,
Yeah.
right? I'm sorry, Chainlink. Litecoin went from about $20 all the
Let's take a
way
look
to
at
like
that.
120, like 120, 130, something like that. So that was, yeah.
Yeah, I remember this thing. Yeah, it had like a downturn during that rough turnaround, and then it just kind of went up from like $30 up to $150.
Woo, man.
Yeah, huge
And,
return.
during that time period, man, we also saw some of these other tokens that were really hot in 2017 have a gnarly pump off the bottom, right? We saw Neo go up 4x, we saw Cardano go up almost 5x, and although Cardano did survive, a lot of these other tokens, they barely made a double top
Yeah,
against the 2017 USD pair. But
yeah, man.
what's the point of accumulating an asset that you think it's cheap if it just underperforms against Bitcoin or Ethereum, right? So,
Exactly.
now, like, as we wrap up here, if you want to bring up Pepe, I think
I'm
that
just gonna show you quickly that double top for Neo, for example. That's a prime
so
example right
close,
there.
man. So close, man.
It tried. It was like nope, right back down to its lows where it was. It's just one big range. In my opinion, it's done for. This was its chance, and it's done for now. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, here we
Like,
go. We got some Pepe right here.
yeah. So with Pepe, man, like I wanted to ask you, man.
Yeah, yeah,
So Pepe, right, sort of had this entire cycle, right? But I sort of feel that, what if something like Pepe is front running, what Dogecoin did? Because Dogecoin has been around for multiple cycles. And,
yeah,
if you take a look at the price action for Doge, Doge has had a cycle where, it's gone up, 30, 40, 50x, right? So, yeah. Yeah, you see like back in cycle,
yes.
that was run up, dude. that was quite the run up. I'm not sure the percentage points on it, man. I think there's a tool on TradingView where you can kind of like calculate the percentage points, but if you
Yeah, so
time
pull
it
up
right
the
from that
let's see,
bottom to
here we
the
go.
top in early 2018, I sort of feel that like that's what Pepe had done, and now it's just doing this long consolidation. So going back to fundamentals and all that stuff and hype and all that, I want to ask you like is it really worth trying to accumulate something that, has the good white paper, has all of these things? Or are you looking at this cycle more along the lines of like, okay, when people come into the market and Ethereum broke an all-time high,
Yeah.
Cardano breaks an all-time high, that's usually like, the normie signal when we know when newer market come in, they hear that, wow, like Bitcoin broke all-time high, ETH broke all-time high, let me see what's the next thing, like what's the next this. And I remember you going over those things back in like 2019 where you were saying how there's not going to be any new money coming into the market until things like Bitcoin and Ethereum or even something like a Cardano break an all-time high, right?
Right,
I'm sort of
right.
wondering, like, is something like Pepe going to repeat history with something like Doge, where it just completely outperforms something that has the cleanest fundamentals, right? To something like a Fetch AI, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It has the AI narrative for it. They have a few good partners and all those things. And I know some of us here because Bitcoin are really bullish on AI for the next 10
Hmm.
years. So if you
Hmm.
want to break that down, man, feel free, man.
Yeah, yeah. So I think it's a mixed bag, right? I go back and forth from like, yeah, you're looking at something with very, very strong fundamentals for the next bull run, and then looking at something like a Pepe because of the hype involved behind it. I still think that a good happy medium would be something like we've seen with the video game tokens, right? Where they have a use case. People actually like to play those games. And then we saw that, what was that one that you could farm tokens with? I remember it's just so huge
Axie
last fall.
Infinity.
That's
Axie
right.
Infinity.
Axie to
Yeah.
me is a perfect example of a token that had a happy medium for the next bull run. I think what I would look for the next upcoming one is something along the lines that integrates AI with the real use case, plus that hype that Axie had, that entices people to take a look at the token and actually hold on to it. I think that's what I would look towards. With that said, that may never happen. So what I first and foremost, what I would look for is it the hype or is it the fundamentals? Absolutely, I'm going to look for the hype. The last bull run, I missed out because I was too busy looking at white papers. I thought going to take over. I was wrong. It was in NFTs. The money was in NFTs. It was in gaming tokens. It was in DeFi. In these
Oh,
like
Ed,
DEX
Ed, I think
protocols.
I think you have the wrong Pepe pulled up, man.
Oh, I
Yeah,
apologize. I
yeah, yeah,
forget.
yeah. That one
Uh,
shows 3 mil, three mil market cap.
gotcha. Let's see. Let's pull it up here. That's on
4 months. I think it's the second one.
4 months. Here we go.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
All right. Around deck screener here. So, yeah, I see it. Yep, yeah, there we go. You
yeah,
get all that price range. You get that
yeah.
nice
I
range that
can't
we're
help.
talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can't help but like look at the way Doge performed in 2018 and 2019 and compare it to Pepe, where Pepe is just in this very long sort of accumulation, right? You see it right there with Doge. So, are you seeing any similarities between that, brother?
yeah. Actually, now that I have the right chart pulled up, I can absolutely see that. Yeah, like that I wouldn't call it a consolidation, but that is a range, right? It
Yeah.
is starting to slow down, and we are starting to see almost like a bottom build right here. Whereas we see with let's pull up like your average token right now, like Arbitrum, right? For example, ARB on Coinbase, right? It's just nuking nonstop, right? It's just making lower lows and continuing to do so. Most tokens are. But with Pepe, that doesn't seem to be the case. It seems to still be building a floor off that previous floor and stuff. So, yeah, I think I would agree with you that anywhere between this range right here wouldn't be a bad place to look into it for maybe long term investments. So I think a lot of people in the space are also looking at Pepe. It's just a matter of when. And I think when that one happens, it's going to be very clear, right? I think it's going to have those impulse moves like we saw with Dogecoin, right? Like you just see
Yeah.
this thing go. When it goes, it just keeps going and it
Yeah.
doesn't stop for a while.
And I noticed that most of the price action with these sort of tokens, they tend to happen like, in 10 days, 12 days, right?
Yeah.
So if it takes it 4 months, right, it'll usually only be like 10 to 12 days out of those 4 months where it really
Takes off.
fires up, man. It'll go up like 80, 90%, flatline, dip 10%, 80, 90%, dip, flatline. And, you know, I can't help but sort of make the correlation and sort of compare it to some of these AI tokens that they might run up, but they'll go up slowly over time, and perhaps underperform against Bitcoin or Ethereum, right? And a question that I want to pose to you before we wrap up is like,
Sure. Sure.
for the that do outperform BTC and ETH, are they just going to be meme tokens? Like that's
Man,
sort of what I'm wondering, right?
that's a good
Like
question.
are they
Yeah.
actually going to outperform BTC and ETH, or is it just going to be the the tokens that on dexes, and then they only get listed on centralized exchanges when it's near the top, right?
And that's a good question. I think I would look at, again, the fundamentals in terms of what meme tokens are supporting it. OpenSea is a good example, right? NFTs in and of themselves are kind of memes themselves. So I think OpenSea did a good job of captivating everybody and saying, look, we have a platform for you. And plus, we have liquidity coming in and out, volume, people buying and selling. So there's actual money being traded on this. Come buy our token, right? And so that's what, again, I think I would look for. And I think that's tokens like that capture the essence of memes, plus a quote unquote strong fundamental with your use case that people can actually go ahead and go out and use. I think that's what's just going to by far outperform Bitcoin and Ethereum for sure. Yeah.
Awesome, brother. And I think we've covered a good variety of topics. We've been going for about
Absolutely.
30 minutes. So, guys, if you all enjoyed this conversation, I'm King Wabi. This is Edward from Because of Bitcoin. Feel free to check out our links down below. And if you're interested in getting in touch with ourselves and more of the Because of Bitcoin community, you can go ahead and check out our website. I'll go ahead and show you guys that. Share screen.
I've been working on it all day. So,
all right. Yeah, guys. So if you want to check us out here, Because Bitcoin, just click the link right here. You'll get a free week. And feel free to check us out. Valentin works his tail off in writing our articles. And if you go right here to our premium section, I'll just let that load. You can check us out. And of course, these are some of our guests that have been on our shows. And here we have individuals that give us reviews, and here are some of our plans. So feel free to check that out, guys. See you later. Catch you on the next one, and have a good rest of your day, morning, afternoon, wherever you are. Take care. See you on the next one.
later, guys. Peace.